Hello, I'm Russ from MoneyWise Plus and the Leicestershire Library Service, and today we're going to look at a few tips for writing personal statements for job applications. So as an example, we're going to look at a county council job application to start with. So I'm going to type in EMSS jobs to find the East Midlands Shared Services job site. I've not looked on this in advance today, so it'll be a surprise to me as well as you to see which jobs are available. So there's one here. The first one here is a wraparound coordinator job, and that one looks like it's part-time at a primary school in Leicestershire. And we've got some examples here of what the candidate what things the candidate that is going to apply for this job they're expecting to have. So there's an MVQ level 3 and some previous experience in childcare, that kind of thing. So they're the things we want to be looking at for the job application. So the very first and most important tip that I can give you for writing an application is to hit every single point on the job description or person specification. So let's have a look at the one for this job. We've got the main duties and responsibilities here, and then various other categories that they're looking for. And here is that personal specification that is the most important part of doing the job application. So we'd want to make sure we're hitting every single one of these points before we send off to apply for the job. And however you choose to do that is up to you. So you could use a style of paragraphs or bullet points, as long as it looks professional. I don't think it matters either way, and as long as you're hitting every single one of those points. So all I've done is just copied, and I'm going to paste those bullet points into a document here just for us to work from. So if I was doing this application for myself, I'd be looking at that job spec and comparing and contrasting the two and just making sure that I'm hitting everything in every single bit of this document somewhere within this order of the job specification. And the third big tip is to use very clear examples, so examples of where you've done these things in your jobs before. So if I was to be starting on this, we're not going to finish it off today, but I'm just going to start as an example. The qualifications thereafter is an MVQ or equivalent. So if we were doing in a paragraph rather than bullet points, we would type out something like, I have an MVQ 3 in something that's relevant to that job. So it would be an MVQ 3 in, I would guess, childcare or something like that. So MVQ 2 in childcare from my studies at, let's say, Loughborough College. And we might put some more detail into that. So within the course, we looked at, and then you put some examples of some of the things that you would have studied for that qualification, just so you've got some concrete examples in there. The main thing they're looking for qualifications is just that you have them. So making sure that we've added that in is really important, and then any extra detail we can give is just fantastic. In terms of these ones, so experience, we're going to be looking at maybe a paragraph on each one of these points. So 5 or 6 lines, something like that, with maybe a couple of examples in. So we'll put, so if you need experience of working in a school environment, we're going to have to put that I've worked in schools in Leicestershire. This is assuming that you have actually done these things as well. So worked in schools in Leicestershire for let's say 10 years, and have supported students with their development and education. And then we would probably add on a few real examples. That's just a starting point of that paragraph. We'd want to put a couple of real examples of working in a school environment. So you'd say, maybe you'd say about, I had one particular student who needed help with their maths work, and through supporting them, they were then able to get a GCSE or an A-level or something that they in a grade that they wouldn't have done otherwise, something like that. Just a couple of examples of the fact that you've actually worked in a school environment and know what it's about. And then it'll be the same for every single one of these, just something that shows that you know about it or that you've got some experience in it. Again, so 5 lines, probably something underneath each of these with examples, and really clear, concrete examples. So we know that we're hitting every single point of that job spec, and we've proved it as well. The fourth point, the fourth tip for doing applications like this would be to use keywords. So the kind of things that are listed in these specifications, to use the actual words that are being used. So there's one here that says budget management. So rather than saying, I'm good with money, or I can sort out finances, I would want to use the exact phrase budget management within the application that I'm sending in. And the same with anything else in here. So monitoring policy and procedures, I probably want to say that exact phrase in there. That's partly because some of the job applications that we send off these days are looked at firstly by a robot, by not a human. So they sometimes scan through for the keywords, so it's important to keep those in. And also it's good for, if you're applying and a human does read it, to use the terminology that their organisation uses anyway. It just makes it easier, and it's easier for someone scanning through to see that you're actually hitting the points that they're looking for. Another tool that could be quite useful for doing this is the Prospects site. And that's here, and they have job profiles on there for various roles. Here's the job profiles. So if, for example, there wasn't a detailed personal spec, but you needed to write a personal statement anyway for that job, or you were just looking for more ideas of actually what did I do in that role before and what examples could I put in, we can look in here for specific job roles. I'm just going to go for the first one, the academic librarian. And here's an idea of some of the things that person would have done in that role. So develop and manage collections of books and journals, and update those things. So it's more a reminder when you're trying to think of, oh, what did I do in that job that was relevant to this application? We can use Prospects and just check back and just see, actually, yeah, I would have done all of these things. They're the type of things that I could put into an application. Obviously not just copy and paste it in, but reword them and use them as examples. And also you're then thinking of the keywords that you'd be looking at within those roles. And obviously qualifications and things like that. So this is actually really useful, not just for applications, but for seeing like what would you have to do to develop in your career to maybe become an academic librarian. You probably want one of these qualifications that are listed here. Assuming we've written the entirety of the application ready to send off, my fifth and final point would be just to ask someone to check it over for you. So Word is quite good. It will tell you if you've made a spelling mistake, it will underline it, and you can check those kind of things. It's relatively good with grammar these days as well, if you've done a little grammar error. But if you've repeated a sentence, Word's not going to pick that up. If you've randomly put a word in that makes grammatical sense, but like for Word thinks it's grammatically correct, but it doesn't actually read right for someone, or you've missed out a really important example that you should really have thought of, another pair of eyes could really help with that. So hopefully you'll have someone, maybe a friend or a colleague, who will be able to look over that for you. If not, then you can always contact MoneyWise Plus or email me to give you a hand with it.